Chiefs training camp is off and running. Day one is in the books. Who stood out? Who showed up when we didn't think they would? Who's got more money? And everything that happened today at Chiefs camp in St. Joe on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. It is the first day. We're excited. We have a lot to run down today, including Travis Kelsey and his dollars and cents, what's going on at left tackle, and a whole lot more. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, home of NFL33.com, where we talk about the league. We get the athletic matrix at Rogue APC. We get everything else at RGR football film-wise and everything. We're happy that you're making us your first listen. If you'd make us the second as well by watching or listening to another Locked On show, we'd appreciate it. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free on every platform. We got a lot going on. Welcome back, Chris.
I'm finally back. Needed time off. So thank you for your patience with that, Ryan. Thank you for holding everything down. Chris Clark, Chiefs Corner. You can find me over there. I'm going to be writing a lot more now that camp is actually opened. Really excited about that. And there is a lot to get into today. I just want to say really quick, I know you already discussed this, but I want to talk about it for just a second. How brilliant was the Chiefs move with Justin Ross? Like, it is so much a low risk, high reward deal.
Yeah, that's pretty much how we felt about it too. I think we'll know more later. I think there's even a possibility that he may recover before the end of the season, and maybe he makes it back on the practice squad and gets to actually run around and do a couple of things. You never know.
He can't be back this year. He's already been placed on IR.
Yeah, he can be released and re-signed.
Well, I guess that's true, but
yeah,
we'll see whether or not that happens. I don't think that they'd go that direction, but I don't know. It'll be interesting. Yeah. I'm just happy that they did it because I thought it was a good move for them to bring him in. He showed a lot of promise in college, and they obviously are going to get the foot to where they think it's supposed to be and where it should be. And that should give them basically a free year of a kid that they think there's a lot of potential there. And he just needed some time to actually recover. And now he has a full year where he can recover. So
upside machine, right?
Yep.
Fun. Well, we got a lot of news to cover. We're going to start on who's on the field, and that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who went to the PUP briefly, is now back off the PUP, and is at practice. We should see that transaction reflected tomorrow. And like I told you when it broke yesterday, it is one of two things, either a little hiccup or it was something that was going to just kind of add up as the season went along. Luckily, it's a hiccup. He looked like he was fine today. He was moving around all right. And I think that's probably a positive sign that I don't know why you would do that for just a day, but it is what it is. And hey, you go with it.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised it was one of the things where it's just a day, but I guess that's their easy way of saying that they're not practicing yet. And they put anybody on that list maybe that isn't ready to practice or able to practice at that time, and then activate them as soon as they're ready. So it kind of surprised me to see it, but at the same time, I kind of get it. I mean, it doesn't really do them any good roster-wise, so that's why it really doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, standouts. First day of practice, a couple of guys kind of stood up and took notice or made us take notice. We'll talk about the offense here before we get into Patrick, Kelsey, and the rest of the defense here in the next segment. But on offense, it had to be Juju's day. Looks like he was all over the place. I think he caught 6 in a row at one point on sevens. He had that nice diving catch. If you haven't seen it on social media, folks, go grab that. It's on the Chiefs official account as well. Does it surprise you that, hey, it's been very calm about Juju all through OTAs, and then first day of practice, like, hey, yeah, I'm still here?
No, it doesn't surprise me. I think it's a good sign for him. I think that he needs to be involved in the offense, and if he's going to be involved this early, I think that's a great sign for what he could do in this offense going forward.
Yeah, I look forward to it. There's a lot to that, in that he has to compete. He has to run the right routes. It looks like he was all over the place. We saw a ton of MVS
Patrick
in OTAs,
trusts him.
Right? That's what it all comes down to. We saw a ton of MVS in OTAs, and now it's a good first day out. Looks like Patrick was pretty sharp. There were some PBUs and interceptions. They will talk about that coming up later. But just in terms of getting off on the right foot, you have this new wide receiver crew. I feel that that's a good step forward, maybe more so than I was expecting.
No, I do think it's a great step forward. I think you look at what you expect from this wide receiver core, and seeing Juju involved so early is a positive sign. I would imagine that you're going to see MVS get more involved as camp goes on. The real question is going to be, what is Sky Moore able to contribute, and how quickly is he able to step in, and is he going to be running with the ones, even not necessarily consistently, but, in a different type of rep scenario, is he going to be a guy that's going to be coming in with the ones, and what kind of impact can he make? At this point, it's just camp, so we'll see how it really shifts once they get into the game time.
Yeah, exactly. One guy who is going to get plenty of game time is Travis Kelsey. They went and did a couple of maneuvers with him, didn't they?
Yeah, they did do a couple of maneuvers with him, and it's not surprising they wanted to make his pay better. At least as of this recording, we haven't seen the official how it's going to affect his numbers. It sounds like they just moved about $3 million up to this year. And if they do that, that's basically a signing bonus that prorates over the life of the contract. It sounds like, at least that's my understanding of how it would work, but we don't have any official language on that yet to see whether or not that's going to affect it. I can't imagine this is going to cost the Chiefs a lot in salary cap space. Maybe it's going to cost them $1 million. They have the space. It's not an issue. And right now, with Orlando Brown not having a long-term deal, they still have, $13, $14 million in cap space, or somewhere around there.
Yeah. Plenty to do something with. Somebody's got to do something on the other side of the ball. Somebody stood out today on the defensive side. We're going to get to that. And then what the heck is going on with the offensive line? We'll cover that later in the show, so don't miss it. Right now, you got to go, don't miss those Built Bars, because the new ones are out. Cookie dough chunk is back, but it's a puff now, so it's lighter. It's got that fluffy texture to it, real cookie dough chunks, and they're covered in 100% chocolate, just like always. And it's the same thing. This one's even a little bit lighter on the calories at 160 and 15 grams of protein. They pack it in there so that you don't have to worry about it. It can be a meal replacement. It can be a protein supplement. You can do whatever you need to with it. And maybe you just like the taste of them and you have a snack, because those things are super tasty. And like all Built Bars, they all come together to try to give you easily absorbed collagen protein that you can bring into your body very quickly. Doesn't give you any kind of gut problems or anything like that. That takes time to digest. For people on the go, people in the middle of a workout, it works out great. So check that out. It's the new cookie dough chunk puff. You want to go check it out, and we have an offer for you. It's at built.com. If you use the promo code LOCK15, you get 15% off of your next order at built.com. With that code LOCK15, go check them out and get that cookie dough chunk right now today. So defense, we'll get into my neck of the woods for a minute, because I've been slowly waiting for somebody to do something, right? Two things stood out to me, and I want your reaction on the defensive side.
I just want to say real quick, Frank Clark did miss practice with an illness, so just want to make sure we address that.
He showed up later with a mystery last-minute acquisition. There's a lot to unpack there.
There is.
The guys that were on the field, interesting is that Josh Williams, a lot of folks have been asking about him, got some run with the ones. As I understand, Lonnie Johnson got some as well, moving that around with Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius got a little bit banged up, but came back at practice, and so you still have your top corner on the field. And I think that rotation is something that's going to evolve. I was really glad to see Williams get some run with the ones right away. That's a positive sign. He had a nice breakup. Did, I think, an admirable job the first day out. Let's see if he maintains that. But that's a really great step forward for this corner crew.
Yeah, I mean, how big of a coup would it be if they could get a starter level player from a 4th round pick rookie year? Yeah. Yeah. Again, no, you're absolutely right. It would be again. And I will say this, like, people are going to say that that's not a good sign for other corners on this roster. And I would just tell you that is technically true, but I'm okay with it, because that means that you actually have a guy that you believe in and you think can play high at this level. And you and I talked about this when he was drafted, questioning whether or not he was going to be a guy that could really contribute this year. Mm-hmm. If he's running with the ones already, that means that they think he's going to be able to contribute, and he could be. I'm not going to say he's going to be a starter, because I want to see how camp shakes out, although it looks like he could be at this point. But it's a big question. What's his role going to be? Are they going to be looking at using him as, on the first team and using his size and length to their advantage? I think that would be a great thing if they think he can handle it. But he's going to be going up against a lot of stiff competition week in and week out, and he's got to be ready for it. It's a huge leap of competition from where he was to where he is now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's a long road. I think at the very least, even if it doesn't work out that he ends up being a starter and as camp goes on, he doesn't quite progress as fast. Who knows? It's a really, really good sign for him and for the team that they're just ready to give him some reps and find out right now. Normally, they would have just slid the other veteran in with Rashad Fenton being out still, folks. He is on the PUP. We'll get an update on him, I think, later in the week from Andy Reid. But with Lonnie Johnson not getting the first reps with the ones and they give him that chance, that's a real positive sign all by itself. Whether it shakes out that way or not, you know that he's in that top 4 or 5 mix with Fenton back. We'll see what happens there. But we thought maybe he was going to be behind DeAndre Baker, who is now on the hot seat. When L'Jarius went out, by the way, it was DiCaprio Bootle that came in for him. So it does appear that Baker has fallen below both Josh Williams and DiCaprio Bootle as it stands right now. That's going to be a pretty fierce fight for the last kind of single CB spot.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely fierce. And at this point, it looks like Baker's going to be the odd man out. And, you know, it's not shocking to me. He's never really seemed to fit with his team and be in their long-term plans. I think that they wanted him to be in their long-term plans, but it's not shocking to me that he doesn't appear to be that guy that they think is going to step in and be a starter. And the bigger question I have is when you see Josh Williams be that guy as the number one, is it a consistent deal? Is it a daily basis?
Right.
You said something, they're trying him out, and that's a key here. Is it something that they do every day? Mm-hmm. I mean, they could rotate guys on a daily basis and try to see what fits and who looks like they should be where. But if it's a consistent deal, if it happens practice after practice after practice after practice, that tells you something. First day, I think it says something too, but I'm curious to see whether or not it's a full deal where he's going to be there again tomorrow and Friday and all the other days of camp.
Yep. It's funny that you mentioned that too, because that philosophy is going to come into play later when we talk about the offensive line, folks. But still in the secondary, the other thing that we got to talk about is you made a big splash kind of acquisition because you wanted to replace Tyrann Mathieu. Well, looks like you got your guy. Justin Reid made an impression the first day, and I'm sure he's been making an impression inside the facility walls, but on the practice field says a little bit more. He had a day picking off a pass, another PBU, as I understand. He's got this little thing where he writes his focus of the day, what he did wrong the day before or something, or whatever he has to work on that day on his wrist. And it's just that constant reminder. And he's here, I think, to be a playmaker. And that's part of the action. To get that and see that in camp on day one, going against Mahomes and making those plays, had a nice pickoff in the corner of the end zone at one point. I think that's the bigger positive sign for the day, that this defense, as he spoke about, has a chance to get off the schneid and get into it early and not need a few games to get to the point where they feel that they can compete.
Yeah, and I think that it's him taking over for Tyrann Mathieu is so huge for Kansas City. And I want to be careful how far I go with this sentiment because I did like the signing when it happened. I still like it. I still think it's going to be a great signing. But it's all going to matter more when we see it on the field and we see it in games and we see it when the stakes are high, because that's when Tyrann seemed to be his best. I'm not saying Justin Reid can't get there. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I'm just trying to be a little bit cautious with the optimism because this is camp. This is, he should know all of where he's supposed to be on the defense. He is a pro. I fully thought he was going to be able to step into this role and be a guy that could possibly start day one and be a huge contributor just based on what he did in Houston. So I'm not shocked at that. I want to see it on the field. I want to see it in competition. And I'm not really even worried about preseason because everything is so different in preseason. I want to actually see it. What's he do week 2?
Yeah.
Like, who cares about the Cardinals? I'm not saying I don't care if they win. I'm just saying who cares about the Cardinals game near as much as you start getting divisional games that are really going to matter. And you talk about the Chargers, who everybody says has so many weapons. What's he do? How does he differentiate himself? Does he put himself on that Tyrann level?
I agree. What does he do against Herbert in particular? Because no offense, Kyler doesn't scare me, and who knows if he's going to do his 4 hours? We don't know. So
you were smiling. I was wondering what you were going to say about that.
Yeah, like maybe Kyler doesn't get his 4 hours in. I don't know. We'll find out. School's in session over there. At least kindergarten is. We're going to talk about the offensive line, the big thing, and how this philosophy is breaking down, and what Andy Reid just did to us coming up after this. Now I mentioned Coach Reed because he came out and he got everybody in a huff. Hey, if Orlando's not here, we'll work with the guys that are. We know Joe Thuney can do it, and now today ain't no Joe Thuney at left tackle, and he's like, we're probably not going to see that happen either. We're going to go through some guys. We're going to rotate. We're going to see who's got what. It was Ryder Johnson that got the start with the ones today at left tackle on the offensive line, and we assume that it'll probably be Jaron Christian tomorrow, and we'll see what happens at the rotation. But do you like the maneuver, the the sting like butterfly, whatever kind of maneuver that Andy threw us all off with?
I think it's funny, honestly. If you would have told me 3 weeks ago that Roderick Johnson was going to be the guy that was going to be opening at left tackle, I would have told you you're nuts. Like, even with the Brown situation and me thinking the deal would get done, like I would have always thought it was going to be Christian. I mean, that's just who I thought it was going to be. And to see him running with the ones, I think that's a good sign for him. I think that means that they have some faith in him. And honestly, the bigger deal is, you and I have talked about this too. It doesn't really matter when Orlando Brown comes back. They still have a need at tackle. Mm-hmm. They don't have a need at starter, but they have a need at a swing guy. Yep. If he can go in there and he can show that he can play, that's huge for this team.
It is, and it's a gotta have. It's not just huge in a nice surprise way. Like it's fulfillment of a need. That's going to be the bigger issue. And I think that, and I said this the day that it happened, that this was my preference, that I didn't think you should slant Thuney over there just out of reaction, that you need to find out what you have. And Joe Thuney is an elite left guard. Let's not make him a good tackle and then have a good guard come in. Like, stay elite at the interior three, because I think you have that. And so I'm happy with the decision. Kennard ran with the twos at right tackle today. Andrew Wiley was with the ones at right tackle, pretty much the way that we thought it was going to come down. But one thing is for certain is that they're going to try guys out at the left. They're going to have to move some combinations around. I wouldn't be surprised to see either or Andrew Wiley or Kennard get some left reps just to see what they have. And in the end, put their best five together for week one.
Yeah, and I'm still not sold that's not going to be Kennard. We know what Andrew Wiley can do. The Chiefs know what Andrew Wiley can do. They know what they've seen from Kennard in OTAs. But you and I have also talked about this. There's not much you're going to see from offensive linemen in OTAs to really tell you much. I mean, you can see technique, you can see all that, but it's not going to tell you how they use leverage, how their body uses leverage, how they're able to move and get in the right position that you need them to be in and still keep their feet until they're put in the fire. And that's exactly where they are right now. So the question becomes, does Kennard take a step forward playing against, and here's the other thing. In a way, it's almost better for Kennard to be with the twos, because generally speaking, the twos are going to be playing against the ones. Mm-hmm. He's going to be playing against the better defense.
Yep.
That should make him a better player. Not saying that I expect he's going to stay at the twos, but I'm trying to look for a positive, and that's one of them, is that he's going to be going against the best unit.
Yeah, I agree. He's going to see Frank Clark some when Frank gets back out there. Said it was an illness again. This is a common theme. We saw Frank have gut ailments last year. We had the neck the year before that, right? Or maybe I'm even putting too many of those together at this point. The fragility of Frank's physical state, I think, has become a bother. We didn't see him all off season. Now he's here and he can't even make it out to the first practice on time. How worried does that make you?
It makes me a little concerned, but at the same time, if he's able to play and he's able to have a good season, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to matter. I mean, there's absolutely going to be concern there because this has been a constant deal with him. It's not a new thing. And you have to worry about it just because, at this point, we really don't know. Is he going to be able to show up and is he going to be productive? The reality is that this is his last year in Kansas City, and he's going to have to play well to get a contract from somebody. And if he doesn't play well, he won't get a contract from somebody, or he'll get a contract. It just won't be a good one. So he has all the incentive in the world to play well this year.
Yeah, I agree. And they need to see it, and he needs to do it.
Yep.
At the end, it's a commonality that's going to prove out. Like Therese used to say, the contract year's undefeated. You got to hope that gets there. It's the physical ailments that bother me about whether that can happen or not. And so let's hope that he gets out there.
It's a valid concern. I think that you don't want to see him have any kind of physical ailments after all of the stuff that he's gone through since he's been in Kansas City.
Absolutely.
It's the reality.
And like you were saying before, you need him out there to help train up, whether it's Jaron Christian or Kennard or Wiley. You got to have the best test your guys back and forth. And so, especially for the twos, I'd like the idea of Kennard seeing him early and often and make that jump if he can. So that's what we'll look for tomorrow, folks. There's lots going on at camp. We'll have more reports for you on the day's highlights, what's going on where, who's getting time with who, and how this is all shaken out. It's just the first day, but there's plenty to come. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell on YouTube and subscribe at the audio platforms. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Thanks for listening today. We'll talk to you then.